Evening. There we are. Good evening. Tonight is Monday, March 9th. I'm opening this meeting. We're going to be moving into the executive session pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21, March 9th, 2026. Meeting at 5:30 p.m. We are going to move our executive session into room 303. The board will discuss the following. D. Kenny versus the Town of Dartmouth update. Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21AC. A3 rather, to discuss strategy with respect to litigation when an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the litigation position of the public body, and the chair so declares. Second item, collective bargaining with all the unions, Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A3, to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining if an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining or litigating position of the public body, and the chair so declares. Number 3, Bliss Corner, Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A3, to discuss strategy with respect to potential litigation arising out of disposal of solid waste and release site if an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the litigating position of the public body, and the chair so declares. And our last item is 970 Tucker Road, Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A6. To consider the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property if the chair declares that an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the negotiating position of the public body. At the conclusion of our meeting, of our executive session meeting, we will be returning to this room, 304, in time for our, hopefully as close as possible to our 6:30 start.
So moved.
So moved. Second. We are all here. So all in favor? No. Roll call vote. Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Mr. McDonald?
Yes.
Mr. Tattlebaum?
Yes.
Mr. Mickelson?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes as well. See you at 6:30. get this meeting started. I'd like to call to order the meeting of the Dartmouth Select Board. Our meeting is being recorded. All members are present. Before we start, I'd like us to all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, and please remain standing.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like us to thank the efforts of Robert Michaud. He's been a long-term assessor for the town of Dartmouth who recently passed. And I would also like us to bring to mind the soldiers, both past and present, especially those fighting for freedom overseas. Thank you. All right, we're going to start with a hearing. So I'd like to open the hearing for Running Brook Vineyard and Winery. We're looking for a pouring permit for Farmers Winery at 335 Old Fall River Road, North Dartmouth. So is there someone here from the winery? Oh, come right up to the microphone, please.
Hi, how's it going?
Better for me. All right, so why don't you tell us a little bit about the license you have now and this pouring license, or pouring permit, which you'd like to have?
Yeah, so
Excuse me, state your name, please.
Name, yeah.
my name is Justin Sine. I'm the operational manager for the vineyard and the winemaker. So I've been with the company for about 4 years now, but we've been officially open for about 25 years. We did have this same license in the past, over a year ago. Recently, we've been distributing bottle sales and stuff like that over our Farmers Winery and Farmers Distillery permit that we have through the ABCC. But now we were trying to reestablish our pouring permit so that we can continue on with the operations we used to do, basically, yeah.
Okay.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
make a motion that we open up the hearing.
Oh, yes, please, sir. Oh,
Second.
we've opened the hearing with Mr. McDonald, seconded by Mr. O'Neill. All in favor? Aye. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Glad to help.
All right, so just tell us what the pouring permit would allow you to do, that without it, you cannot do.
So, from my information that I know of, is that it allows me to serve by the glass, do glass sales. I could serve tastings and have customers actually pay for them, as well as I'm pretty sure it allows me to do actual events. I'm not sure if that's a part of the whole ordeal. Yeah, he's nodding yes, so I'm gonna agree with that. I'm a little rusty on like how it all like works. I'm learning as I'm going right now. So yeah, so serve by the glass, serve tastings, and have customers pay for them, and then also have events, small events, large events, and so on and so forth, stuff like that. And I wanted to get it definitely before the season started. It's been a little process for me because the owner is actually currently trying to sell the business. So that's why it's been difficult going back and forth with him. I don't have all the power in my hands. Mm-hmm. But as of right now, I'm probably going to stand before you all again in either another few months or maybe over a year, because we do have a buyer. He's probably going to be buying the property, so that will probably change some things. I'll come back and update different things that are going to go on. But for right now, it's about wanting to serve glasses and have events.
So is Pedro Texera the current owner?
Yes.
Okay. All right, and yes, on your paperwork, you filled in that it said you would possibly have events Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
Yeah.
And you have time restrictions, and you have some events that will have live music you've checked off? Okay. Mm-hmm. Is there anyone in the audience in favor of this project? Anyone in the audience have something to say against the project? Anyone on the board?
Motion to close the hearing.
Motion to close.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. O'Neill. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Well, no, that was, okay, sorry.
No. Anyone have anything to say about the project?
So the pouring license, basically, you're just looking to provide samples, flights, whatnot, generally, because you don't do that now, but you had that previously.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
basically, you never renewed the pouring license back then. So this is, technically, it's a new license, but it's a renewal of an old license that somebody forgot to renew.
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay, I don't have a problem. We've
Yeah.
never really had a problem over there. And I, like you said, you're gonna do the entertainment, but there may be some events where you may need an additional permission to do so, depending upon what the event is.
So, I did hear something about that. I know, like, I don't know what the exact rules are, but something about, like, roughly you were allowed to have, like, a certain amount of big events on the property per year, but, like, then if we want more, then we have to come back.
Yeah,
to
any
you guys.
clarification, just contact our office and, you can speak to Melanie and,
Yeah.
she'll help you guide it right through, so.
All right, sweet.
With that, Madam Chairman, I make a motion that we approve it.
Second.
I just want to clarify, is your motion for
You have to
both?
do both.
Both, yes.
Yeah.
So both the
The pouring
pouring
of the
permit
wine.
for Farmers Winery and the pouring permit for distilled spirits, which are not, would be brought into the winery, correct? You don't distill any spirits there?
Yeah, we make everything there, yes.
Everything.
We have both a farmer's winery and a farmer's distillery license, yeah. Yeah, so we make, like, ports, liqueurs, brandy, wines, white reds, sweet wines, stuff like that, yeah.
Looks like I need to take a drive.
No whiskey or bourbon, no. No,
No whiskey.
not yet.
Yet.
I'm hoping, yeah, especially with this new guy. I feel like it'd be awesome, right?
All right, so on the floor, we have,
Being on that.
we have a motion to approve both the pouring permit for Farmers Winery and the pouring permit for distilled spirits, and we have a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. No one is opposed, passes unanimously.
Good luck.
Beautiful. All right, thank you, guys, I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Should I stay for the rest of the meeting, or
No, you can go.
or should I go? All right, I just wanted to ask, just in case.
You want to.
Yeah,
No one is a captive audience. Gary and, Gary and Jess and Cody, they're all
the
captive.
offer.
Samples? You're from the Dartmouth Town Hall, and I'd be happy to give you guys a free taste. Have a great night, guys.
Never,
about samples,
never,
right?
never would take him up on that.
Gary and I are going to go tomorrow.
All right, next, we're into new business now. We have the appointment of our animal control officer. Is Devin here?
Yes, she is.
Here she is.
There she is.
Hi, how are you?
Hi, Devin. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? We have your resume in front of us.
Yes. So I was a vet tech for about 7 years. I worked with a variety of different animals, domestics, exotics, wildlife. Kind of found a passion working with wildlife throughout that and moved over into animal control for the town of Wareham. Did that for roughly about 4 years, and then this opportunity came up, and I'm grateful to be here.
Excellent. Well, I hope Dartmouth is as good to you as it's been a great job. Sandy, who I know that you've
Yes.
met,
Yeah, Sandy's
has
fantastic.
been with us for many years. So, anyone on the board with any questions?
I just
Mr.
have one
O'Neill.
question. So Devin, we had a couple of incidents in the last year. I had one particular property owner off of Smith Neck Road who had
Yep.
2 deer in his yard
Okay.
that were both deceased.
Yep.
And since they were on his property, the town wouldn't be able to help
Yeah.
if they weren't in the right of way. So in your past experience, do you have people that you'd be able to speak with? Because this couple was an elderly couple, and they obviously are not going to load a deer into a truck.
Yeah. So it's kind of a tough situation there. Typically, anything off private property where we're insured by the town to be dealing with the public property, we're not necessarily insured to be, if I go onto a property and throw my back out for something that's, outside of what's in my job description, I'm pretty limited. In the past, I've referred people to sometimes pest control companies will come out and kind of do something pro bono, especially for elderly people or disabled. as well as they're called problem animal control agents. They're privately licensed through the state, and a lot of the times they can assist with things like that too.
So knowing that, could you put a list together of recommendations that you could just hand people in a situation like that?
Yeah,
and
so
just kind of walk
the
away?
pest control companies are a little bit tough just because they're private entities, and I don't have any experience with individual companies to know, I'd hate to suggest, a company that was great for one person that may not be a good fit for another. The problem animal control agents are all listed on mass.gov, and they're also private, so people can kind of go through and call based off of, the question that they have and hopefully find the right fit, but it's all right on mass.gov too, for everybody that's licensed for the state.
So my only suggestion is if we could put like a small list together.
Absolutely.
And then be able to at least hand that to them so they can, then you can turn and go,
No, absolutely.
But
we
they
could do
struggle
that.
to find,
Yeah, no, it can be tough. Sometimes, it's tough with the private stuff, but once we kind of know which companies are willing to come out and assist with things like that, they're definitely one that we can recommend moving
great,
forward.
thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I'm going to do one better. We're going to have you work with Jessica, our communications person, because perhaps we can add that right to the website
Okay.
under your
Yeah.
tab.
Perfect.
And that way, if that comes up,
Yeah.
we can guide them to go
Yeah.
there.
Okay.
Anyone on this side? Mr.
I
Tattelbaum?
have a question for resident. Welcome aboard. Thank you.
Hi, thank you.
This fellow's been talking to me, and I think maybe even the Cody as well, about a dangerous dog ordinance of some kind with I guess these dogs are proven to be dangerous or something. Is there a protocol of what we do about that?
Yes, so any dangerous dog hearing, they can be requested by, any resident in the town of Dartmouth, or they can be brought forward by animal control. Dangerousness and nuisance are a little bit different between each other as to what's allowed to mediate those issues. The dangerousness hearings, typically they go before the hearing authority, they're open to the public, and the evidence is presented why the dog should be deemed dangerous. There are certain things under Mass General Law that are not allowed, so things like, just based off of growling, barking, breeds, there has to be a history of bites or significant aggression. And then outside of that, if the dog is deemed dangerous, there's only 7 things that are allowed under Mass General Law to be for the recommendations moving forward for preventative measures. That is being revised for the state, so there are things that are going to be included that weren't there previously. There's going to be some new wording that's added into the statute, but currently it's still just the 7 recommendations. But again, it goes before the board, whether that's whatever hearing authority it is. Each town is different, and then a decision can be made from there.
The gentleman that you're referencing, I've also been in touch with him, and we did conduct a dangerous dog hearing. The dog
Yep.
was found to be dangerous, and they did recommend one of those 7.
Yes.
The next piece is that the owner of the dog and the dog moved out of town and moved to another community. And
Okay.
this individual was concerned that no one in that community would know
Yeah.
that she was coming with a dangerous dog. So that's the piece. There isn't anything currently
Yeah.
mass legislatively wise, but is that something, and you're new to this position, so as you interact with other animal control officers in other communities, would you just keep that,
Yeah, so it's
to talk
not-
about how do we reciprocate and give that information? He did.
Yeah.
The gentleman called
Yes.
the other community and told
Yeah.
them, but there's nothing official through,
So under the statute in Mass General Law, anybody who has a nuisance or dangerous order on them or their dog, they are legally required to notify their new residents. If somebody doesn't do that, they're technically in violation of the dog order. So in the event that another incident arises, maybe that town didn't know, and then they call for past records, it is something that we could push forward to them, and that it is a violation under the Mass General Law. So there's other ways around it as far as the communication.
it's self-reporting
Yeah,
on them.
unfortunately.
All right, but that's good to know,
Yeah,
because if they don't follow up,
Yes.
we can make sure that it's known. Well, Devin, sorry to hit you with something
No,
so,
it's okay.
so,
I'm glad I had answers.
particular, but,
Motion to appoint.
motion made to appoint. Second. Second, all right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, Devin. Welcome
Thank you very
aboard.
much. I appreciate it.
All right,
Bye for that, Joe.
next, we have the, our annual town election, which,
Sarah?
Daniel, do you want to take over?
That's just the
I was just
annual
gonna-
warrant, yeah.
The annual warrant, just so that we have it, I want to make everyone aware that they, where the precincts are. And they're going to be the same place they were previous. So precinct 1 will vote at the North Dartmouth Library, the North Branch. Precinct 2 will vote at the Smith Mills Church Fellowship Hall on 11 Anderson Way. Precinct 3 will be voting at UMass Dartmouth. That's where they've been before, and there will be plenty of signs directing them to where they will be voting. Precinct 4 will be at the Dartmouth Bible Church, 52 Morton Ave. Precinct 5 will vote here at the Town Hall Building, 400 Slocum Road. Precinct 6 will vote at the Senior Citizen Center, otherwise known as the COA, on 628 Dartmouth Street. Precinct 7 will vote at the Dartmouth Youth Athletic Organization building at 225 Russell's Mills Road. Precinct 8 will be voting at Southworth Library in the auditorium at 732 Dartmouth Street. And Precinct 9 will also be voting at the Senior Citizen Center, the COA, at 628 Dartmouth Street. We're voting this year on Tuesday, April 7th, from 7 a.m. in the morning to 8 p.m. at night. There will be the following officers are up for election. Select Board Lot Number 4, it's the seat that Mr. Mickelson is stepping down from. It's an open seat. Vote for one. One on the Board of Assessors. We have a 3-year term available. Sorry, the Select Board was a 3-year term. The Board of Assessors is a 3-year term. Open seat, that's due to Mr. Michaud's passing. We have 2 school committee member seats, both 3-year terms. 2 trustee of the Free Public Library, 3-year terms. We have 1 seat on the Board of Health, which is a 3-year term, and 1 seat on the Board of Health, which is a 1-year unexpired term. We have 1 seat on the Planning Board, which is a 5-year term. 1 seat on Parks and Recreation, 3-year term. 1 seat on the Housing Authority, which is a 5-year term. And every precinct will have a number of town meeting members on their list. The list only will contain the folks that reside in that precinct. So at this point, all candidates have submitted their paperwork. You will be able to see your precinct's ballot in advance of going in to vote. If someone did not get their name on the ballot and they wanted to be a town meeting member, they can write their name in, and they can have their friends write their name in. If you're writing someone's name in, make sure you know how to spell both the first and last name correctly and their home address. All that is necessary to put on the ballot to ensure that we're electing the correct person to that. So that is what's happening. And so,
Heidi, is there a number of people that you need to have to write in for a town meeting?
as write-ins, no,
There's no minimum?
no.
Okay.
Which is a little bit interesting because you have to collect 25 signatures, but there is no minimum number to write in. Some precincts, you may be able to get onto the ballot and become a representative to the town meeting with a few votes, and others, you almost have to be willed a seat because their precinct has, they may have 15 names and you vote for 13. So it all depends. So, all right, the board.
Motion to approve the warrant.
Thank you. Motion made by Mr. McDonald, seconded by Mr. Mickelson. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, and that's going to come around for us to sign. Next, we have the dates for our annual town meeting schedule. So that is on page 22 in your packet, if you'd like to look at it. We have a joint meeting with school committee to discuss the proposed budget, and that's March 23rd, 2026, and that meeting would take place at Dartmouth High School at the school committee's meeting. So I know that there's also another meeting that evening also scheduled, so we will need a count before the meeting to see if we have to post it as an open meeting if 3 or more of us will be in attendance at that school committee meeting.
I would note, Madam Chair, if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
That's an important meeting. You know, in discussions with the school administration team, the schools their request was around 7% for a budget increase. Their level service budget is a little over 5%. In preliminary figures, myself and our finance director have determined we cannot afford much more than 4%, right around that 4% mark. And so we're trying, this is something that typically happens later in the budget season, but we're trying to get that a little bit earlier so there can be a collaboration. The school committee has shared that they want to have that discussion with the select board regarding the budget early on. And so the 23rd is actually the budget hearing for the Dartmouth Public Schools. And we thought it would be imperative that the select board, we have a joint meeting with the school committee. Gary and I are going to prepare a presentation of just the overall financial picture of the town, and then we hope for some productive dialogue. So I know there's a conflicting ZBA meeting that evening, and I would say if we are not going to have a quorum of the board, to let me know so we can try to reschedule to a different night, because this is a very important
What time?
meeting. 6 p.m.
6.
I'll be there.
I'll be there.
Looks like we have a quorum.
Yep, so we'll get that posted. The next is April 13th Select Board meeting, which is our first review of the high-level warrant, which is just going over the articles. We then will plan a joint meeting with the Finance Committee sometime in April and May. That date is to be determined. April 27th Select Board meeting will review a full draft of the warrant, and then on your May 11th meeting, you will need to vote on the warrant and provide your recommendations. As I previously discussed, we are going to do a pre-town meeting session, which will be myself, applicable department heads, hopefully the board, the moderator, council, and really give an in-depth overview of the warrant. Allow town meeting members and general members of the public to ask questions, and hopefully allow for a more productive town meeting. And then obviously we have town meeting on June 2nd.
And where do you expect that May 27th meeting to take place?
That is to be determined.
Okay.
Depending on what we start getting for interest, we may request the schools to host us in one of their facilities.
A larger auditorium.
Yeah, more information to come on that, and that'll go out in the packet. For
And
all
we've
town
never done
members.
that before, so this is nice. Thank you. All right, moving right along.
Did you clarify, excuse me, that joint meeting of finance is not determined yet?
Correct,
Okay.
we haven't nailed down a date yet.
Thank you.
Next on our agenda, in your packet, page 23, but I believe it was also dropped off onto our desk tonight.
Well, just this part, I think we've got.
No, there's another piece.
It's in there, too. No, I have it right here.
Oh, okay. So we have a letter.
We do have someone from Serpent here as well to explain.
Oh, beautiful. Okay, and we have, this is in conjunction with the,
The large, pretty piece of paper.
yep,
Yep. It's,
And the letter.
substituting
Okay,
for a
so-
PowerPoint presentation.
right.
Sorry,
And you
I'll
are?
speak into the microphone. Hi, I'm Karen Pettinelli. I'm a Principal Natural Resource Planner with SERPID, which is the Southeastern Regional Planning and Economic Development District. We work on a variety of projects with municipalities and provide technical assistance. I imagine you've met people from our team before at past hearings. And sorry, yeah. So I left on your desk there. This is a scope of services, and I'll and we can get to it. I can tell you some background first, and then we can look at some of these things. And then I left a draft letter of support, but This is actually the outdated version. We're changing who the applicant is. I've sent Cody the updated version. I actually just printed the wrong version before I
Was the
left.
updated version in our
So,
thing? Okay.
yeah, so the one you have electronically is accurate.
All right.
And then I
So look
also
at the one on page
put
23.
a memo describing the project on the table, which I'll send after. Yeah, so basically what brings me here is I was doing an agricultural assessment of the region, the 27 municipalities in our region. I have a background in farming, and I was seeking to figure out how SERPED could support our municipalities with agricultural preservation and agricultural viability. So I went to the Dartmouth Agricultural Commission meeting where I met Sue, who's here, and I asked how I could support agriculture in Dartmouth, and she indicated that a cost of community services analysis would be supportive for farmland preservation and protection initiatives in the town of Dartmouth. And I don't know if you want me to go into a cost of community services analysis a little more, but there's a lot of different methodologies you could use, and we're thinking a simple one looking at 6 different land uses, including residential, commercial, industrial, open space, and different types of open space uses where both active agriculture, recreation, and passive conservation land, and to compare the costs of these uses on the municipal budget and then on the tax base, essentially. And this would be to help inform the planning board, CPC committee, essentially anyone making land use decisions in Dartmouth in terms of what the costs are of different decisions. And I'm working in partnership with our comprehensive team, and they do master plans and housing plans for communities. And I'm from the environmental department, and we do open space plans and focus a lot on land conservation. So we're really looking to kind of marry these different goals or to present all the different aspects of land use decision making with a sort of equal weight. So this also would look at certain smart growth options, which isn't always included in a cost of community service analysis, where it would look at what cluster development would look like compared to single-family residential or standard subdivision. And we can also change the methodology based on feedback from select board, planning board, anyone, essentially. So after Sue mentioned this, the Eco One Stop grant program announced the expression of interest period. So we put in an expression of interest to hear feedback from the state on whether this would be a competitive grant application. And they give us very positive feedback, both for the planning assistance grants and for the municipal vulnerability preparedness grants. We would, as a part of this study, do a public engagement campaign. With the current scope that's here, it's a fairly small one because there's different grants you can go for, essentially, and they have different caps. And we decided to keep this step of it smaller and stay within 50,000, which would make us applicable for the EEA planning assistance grants. We hope, if this goes well, and that we could do a phase 2 and expand the study and do a bigger public education campaign with a future grant round through MVP. And I know I just said a lot there and maybe kind of quickly. So I'll pause. But basically I'm here to ask for see if we have your support, because it's very important that the select board is on board with anything we do with the community. Given, SERPED, we want to make sure we're, meeting everyone's needs as much as possible. We've met with the planning board, and they were very much in support, and they offered to provide a letter of support. And it'd be great if the select board would like to, or if Cody wants to sign one, representing the select board or on his own. Anyway, I'll pause.
I want to thank you for actually attending an agricultural meeting and getting the ball rolling. This is great. I have looked at the one-stop application, and you never know where to start. So this will be great. I like your timeline. It doesn't look too aggressive. It looks appropriate.
Yep.
And I like how you're looking at the different 6 different land use categories, because that is something that is important. Especially as we're, some of our parcels are under conversion for housing. So this, in essence, first phase is a total of $64,600, right?
Yes.
And you're
right.
seeking a DLTA match grant of
We-
$15,000.
We actually receive DLTA every year. Serped does a certain amount, and then we allocate in advance. So, this would be for the next fiscal year. So we, have set this aside if this award is received. So this would be at no cost to the town. And Dartmouth Natural Resources Trust is also very on board with this study and happy to help with the public engagement, and hopefully that could kind of beef that up a little more than what's in this scope, because it's fairly minimal in this scope. But this would be at no cost to the town, and essentially just seeking your approval to move forward with the application, which would come from Serped, and we would administer the grant essentially on behalf of the Agricultural Commission.
And DLTA stands for?
District Local Technical Assistance.
Oh, okay. And that's what they're they're offering the funds for, but you're doing technical
It's
work.
Yeah, we don't have like a standard budget from the state. We essentially operate off of grants, so the DLTA funds are a way to support our work, and we look at the different needs across communities and kind of divvy them out based on what the requests are.
Does anyone on the board have?
Ms. Brooks?
Yes,
Any-
Mr.
any
Talbot.
comment from the Ag Commission members that are here?
You guys want to comment? I know. Okay.
I'm Fred Dabney, 82 Fairway Drive. I've been in the agricultural business most of my life, having run a wholesale nursery in Dartmouth from roughly the late 70s until 2020, almost 40 years. And one of the things that I know you're aware of is that we have had a cost of community services study done about 15 years ago, but that's no longer relevant. I think obviously the changes have been pretty dramatic. So we're looking for an updated one, and one of the concerns has always been that because the Ag Commission has been the driving force behind it, that it would be somewhat slanted. And this is one of the great things to have Serped running this effort, is making that less likely. We're hoping this is a much more objective viewpoint. So we're hoping that this will be something that really helps the town to see what the costs are and how we can more effectively plan land use all over the town. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dabney. Ms. Scaducci, did you have anything to add? She never shies away from a mic.
I just want to make one brief comment, and that's the work that will be done on the cost of community services study will also help integrate with the master plan, which we fail to do on occasion, and this will give us the impetus to work in conjunction.
Thank you. And I see Mr. Almy coming up from the Board of Public Works. Sue, at some point, I hope that we get to have you film your overview of farming in Dartmouth. I attended an ag meeting one time when you were giving sort of an oral history, and I found that to be fascinating, and we need to capture that. So, Mr. Almy.
Madam Chair, members of the board, Robert Almy, I'm on the Board of Public Works. I've seen these studies in the past. We would benefit from having an update of the town's study, because we are looking at expensive services that need to be provided, and this will help knit our estimates, the land use, and some of the other considerations that the town needs to do better planning. So I strongly encourage this. And depending on the timing of our next meeting, I will offer to bring this to our board and support the effort.
Thank you. I'm also wondering if this is something that we can have work with the Buzzards Bay Coalition
Right.
and the DNRT, our Dartmouth Natural Trust.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, DNRT is very much on
RT,
board. I've
excellent.
talked to Nick a bunch.
Good.
And we haven't reached out to Buzzards Bay yet, but I kind of see that as up to Nick to, manage the land trust.
because they have purchased a number of properties
Yes.
for conservation in our town. So, thank you. Anyone else on this board?
Just to clarify, Madam Chair,
Yep.
we're allotted a certain amount every year for SERPED expense, correct? For school,
MA hours.
yeah.
Yeah.
And this is not coming out of that balance, correct?
No.
Okay.
Yep.
I wish we would have had this done prior to the housing production plan, but maybe we can make an amendment to it when we get the data from it. I noticed that the town engagement, stakeholder engagement is that going to be throughout or just at the end with presentation of the material?
Yeah, we would conduct the study first, and then it would be simply kind of presenting it and talking to, the
Because
public
it's
or the
really not
boards.
overly subjective information, it's more factual, just.
Right. Yeah, it's numbers, but, interpreting graphs and stuff for what that can mean. Yeah, it's helpful to go through.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Mr. McDonald? Mr. Mickelson?
Good.
Good here as well. I'm excited for this. So the board needs to make a recommendation on signing off on a letter of support, which we do have. It's the letter that reads in our packet. The content is in our packet. So, it's just me. So, board, would you make a motion and allow me to sign on our board's behalf a letter of recommendation supporting this
So moved.
project? Thank you, Mr. Mickelson. Seconded by? Mr. McDonald, all in favor?
Aye.
Here I go, writing my life away. Thank you. Thank you for coming tonight.
Very much.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
And
Good
the
luck.
information, I look forward to this and working with you through the process. Thank you. Oh, that's all right. Think positive. All right, next on our schedule, we have the comprehensive emergency management plan. Do you want to take that one?
Sure is.
All right, and we have,
So Tim Sheehan, our emergency management director, is here. Just to give a little bit of background, our comprehensive emergency management plan has not been updated in quite some time. Tim and I have had several meetings, and we've brought in all the key departments to begin updating that plan. Tim has some intern staff from Mass Maritime Academy also helping. We have MEMA involved. And I can say, the idea tonight is, Tim, to give you an idea of what the comprehensive emergency management plan is. You have a draft in your packet. We're not looking for you to vote on it tonight. We're still finalizing it, but I just wanted the board to be aware of what this is. And I can say, I'm sure Tim can reiterate this, even though we haven't finalized it, it was incredibly helpful during the blizzard that we just had, because so many things that we had talked about in developing this came up during that blizzard. And I'll let Tim take over.
Thank you, Cody, and thank you, members of the board. I give Cody credit. He read it. You will not find this on the New York Times bestsellers list, I'll tell you that.
was also thinking of printing it out and then saw that it was 99 pages and thought better of that.
The whole premise to this document and the pages inside is to bring the stakeholders of the town together in the event of anything from, God forbid, an active shooter, to a weather event that we just went through, to a hazmat situation, to a medical time, just like we dealt with COVID, so that all the people that would be involved can help mitigate the emergency to make sure the town is whole, our people that live within the town are whole to the best that we can. It's the concept is we're all in the sandbox together. I can tell you that from my own experience, the unbelievable can become believable. I speak from experience. April 13th, I have my dates wrong. April 19, 2013, 6:30 in the morning, I got a call from my night lieutenant. I was the captain at UMass Dartmouth, that bomber number 2 was a student at our institution. Never in my wildest dreams did I think that would ever happen. I hope to never repeat that experience. This manual, as you see it, is a recipe for us collectively, not just the public safety folks, but collectively as a town and a community, should a critical incident occur, that we can deal with it in an expeditious manner, in a manner that's we can wrap up, that we can keep people safe, and we can bring the town and the community back to a level of normal business. It's the town and gown relationship between UMass Dartmouth is there. I would stress that we take a look at that. The importance of working with MEMA, the web EOC, during this past storm came in handy. I activated that system. We ended up with help from Hampden County Sheriff's Department. I had to scratch my head because I didn't even know where Hampden County was. But the sheriff was on the phone with me saying, help is coming. And I was very appreciative of that fact. But it showed me that MEMA, that big state entity that sometimes does, the state sometimes works well, sometimes doesn't, worked well in this instance. And we were able to help facilitate helping out DPW in some of their management of the piles of snow, getting things in this town back to normal. The important component to this is there's liability here. And the liability is inherent in these pages. And in here, you all, or the chairman, Madam Chairman, are going to be signatories. And every 3 years, this has to be reviewed. And I can tell you, I do not want to be on the stand trying to justify why, as a town, we did not stay current to an industry standard. So what I'm suggesting to you is that with Cody's help, your help, we take a look at this plan, the SEMP, and make sure it becomes a fabric of the public safety component of this town.
I thank you for that. Having worked in the school department, I know that we had a comprehensive emergency management plan that covered everything from tornadoes to food poisoning to active shooters, except for one thing, pandemics. Mm-hmm. And I think of all the things that we have had to reference it was the pandemic, which we had nothing but plenty of institutional knowledge of now. I will say I did scan and skim all 99 pages, and I like the fact that you have a training component, you have the pre-emergency, what to do when the emergency, and then the recovery efforts, and all of that to be spelled out nicely in this document. So I look forward to seeing it unveil, and know that as part of our training, we need to get all the stakeholders together to discuss who's in charge of what. Because what we don't want is too many chiefs on the day of, and everyone
Correct.
need to know their role. I recently was at the MMA conference, which is the Mass Municipal Association conference in January, and the session I chose to sit in on happened to be about emergency management plans. So I'm very excited about seeing our work here. And I will go back to my notes from that and see if I can share anything.
Very good. Thank you.
So are there training programs?
There are
actively?
training programs. You can go on MEMA's website.
Yep.
Anybody can, with your affiliation with the town.
Mm-hmm.
And you can do it virtually, you can do it in person, and you can get a good perspective on what the expectations are on how to handle critical incidents. Because in my opinion, you don't want to be scrambling the day of.
Right.
There's also tabletop exercises, which we haven't done in a number of years. So Tim has coordinated that. The team will be undergoing a tabletop exercise this spring, right, Tim?
Spring, that is correct.
And then our goal after that tabletop exercise will be actually to put it into motion sometime this summer with a hands-on exercise. But it's all really good progress when you look at where we were. Like, even though the plan hasn't been adopted, it really was helpful, particularly for me, this last storm. You know, we haven't seen a storm like this in a number of years, and it was a good guidance and guidelines for who's responsible for what. You see some horrific incidents around the country and how different communities respond. And one of the things we've even talked about in our meetings is centralized communication. You don't want a press conference where 5 different people from the town or the community are trying to answer the question. It's one person. So we've talked about that. We've had a few meetings, and we'll continue to improve. But I think it's really important that the board is aware of this. There is some authority within here for the board. Yeah, we just want to have Tim in, and we'll certainly bring this back for your final review and approval, but it's good for you to be familiar with this as well.
If I can, there's one issue I'd like to stress is that the issue of interoperability. Right now, if a situation happens with the radio systems that we have in the town, we cannot talk to each other agency to agency. And one of the lessons of 9/11 was is that you need to be able to communicate across the board to responding agencies. So that's one of the things I've spoken with Cody about. And that exercise is going to be a Cat 2 hurricane coming to the town. And I was totally unaware that there was 1,400 vessels in Peyton Arms Harbor at peak season. And trying to move 1,400 vessels quickly and coordinate all that. And so that's one of the things that we have to figure out. How do we deal with those kind of dilemmas? So again, I thank you for your attention. I thank Cody for championing this forward, and I look forward to working with you all.
Dave, you had a question?
One quick. I started reading it, and I found it actually quite fascinating and valuable because what it did for me, which is what I think you were trying to accomplish, is to understand the scope of what it takes to put an army together like this, and from all aspects of town, in all corners of the town. You see these kind of things often, unfortunately, now on the news on a regular basis. And some of these presentations are disjointed, and some have, agendas. And from the day that you started with us, you've always been open-minded and up to the job. And I can see that Cody is as he's done now for the last few months, making it happen, to organize it and provide his leadership. I take it at the end of the day, you're going to assign names to the people who will be in the position, so you'll have a worksheet, and then you update that on a regular basis as it changes.
Exactly, yes. But the thing is, you do not want this to die,
right,
and it never gets looked at again.
You put it on the shelf, it's useless to everybody.
Correct.
It's really refined work. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. O'Neill.
I just had a quick question. It reminds me of a plan that I had for our office at one point. We had engaged a company to be able to bring in a trailer with office equipment, computers, satellite, the whole thing, and access to power. And do we have a list of vendors, or have we ever prepaid service, deposit service agreements with any particular vendors like electricians?
To my knowledge, no. One of the critical parts to that is if a nursing home goes down at 3 o'clock in the morning,
right,
how do we house the residents? How do we transport them from A to B? Is that we develop a contract with one of the local bus companies. And again, you don't want to do that in the midst of it. You got to have it in place, because once the emergency hits, everybody's calling for the same level of service. So that's part of this comprehensive look at how we deal with, it's 3 o'clock in the morning, we need supplies from Home Depot. That's why you need a financial person in the incident command room that can take care of that unified command. And I say to you, hey, you know the manager at Home Depot, who has the credit card?
Right.
Or do we have a contact and a contract with them?
I know down in Florida, some people actually pay for service. It's a service that you pay for to actually be on top of the list, because inevitably what happens is you get a Category 2 down there, and everybody's calling the roofing companies.
Correct.
Well, how do they prioritize? They prioritize by the list of customers that have been paying them a minimal amount every year to stay on that list. Whether the storm happens or not, the customer's out the money, but they're essentially just paying to keep their slot available, because the blue tops go fast.
Yes.
And it affords you the ability to get that blue top. So I don't know if there are vendors locally that we might be able to engage to at least commit to us without finance to be our key vendors. You know, like generators are great, but if the buildings don't have the accessibility to use that generator, then it's useless, right? So the work that's done by the electricians to get that building prepared for a generator is probably the most important part of it all. So
We do have, in conjunction with our insurance company, we recently partnered with ServPro, the local ServPro, and essentially, it didn't cost, but we essentially have an agreement with them of that nature, where we're at the kind of the top of the list. They did a small assessment for us, but we do have that in place with them.
good.
Excellent.
Thank you. Good work.
Thank you.
I know. Thank you very much. We look
Thank you.
forward to continuing to hear about it. All right, next on our list, we have long-range capital planning presentation.
Yes, thank you.
Cody?
So first, I want to acknowledge we do have the members of the Long Range Capital Planning Committee here. Gary Carrero, our Director of Budget and Finance. We have Tim Barber, our DPW Director. Rob Almy, who's on the Board of Public Works. Bruce Brooks, who's the Capital Planning Committee Liaison. Jim Kiley, our Assistant Superintendent of Dartmouth Public Schools. And Dave Tattlebaum, who serves as the Select Board's representative. Let me put this. So what we're going to do tonight is really kind of the first culmination of all the work of the Long Range Capital Planning Committee. As you know, this has been a committee that's been in place for the last approximately 2 years. Over the fall, we did several workshops that focused on 3 areas. One was on Dartmouth Public Schools, one was on DPW facilities, and the other was on general government facilities. And on top of that, we did surveys, and the group has really done a lot of a nice job of getting all that support in determining what kind of the next steps are for the community. And I also forgot Terry Ham, who is on the Long Range Capital Planning Committee as well. So what we're going to go through tonight is really an analysis of the debt, some estimates for what those projects are, and where we recommend funding in the short term and the long term. It's really broken up into 2 parts. The first is our general government debt, which would be funded out of the general fund, and then we have enterprise funds, water, sewer, primarily, which are funded essentially through ratepayers. Here is a list of several of those projects as we look into the next 25 years or so. On the shorter term, smaller list, we have finishing up Memorial Stadium. We have the high school roof, which is coming up. That project has been accepted by the MSBA. We have the high school track, which has been needed to be repaired for quite some time. And so those 3 projects total about $13 million and are more, like I said, the near-term projects. We then look at, we're going to need to do some iteration of a new middle school. So whether that is building actually a new high school and turning the current high school into the middle school, or if we build actually just a new middle school, at some point the current middle school building in the near future needs to be replaced. So that's, you see in 2030, the superintendent and assistant superintendent along with the school committee and the select board later this spring are preparing a statement of interest to the MSBA. So that, like I said, that's why it's on 2030. Recreation center and COA upgrades is something that, you know, it's been discussed. The committee didn't take a strong stance on this. There wasn't a ton of public interest. Again, our survey was limited, but we wanted to keep it on there just to make the board aware of it, and we put a placeholder in as 2032. Then we get into starting to replace our elementary schools. So in 2035, we have Potter or DeMello being replaced, and then the other one that isn't replaced in 2040, and then we look at the Quinn School in 2050. You know, I will say once you get out beyond kind of that 5-6 year mark, these dollar values are really placeholders based on current market conditions and where we see them going. So when we get to 2050, our costs for the Quinn School will likely be a lot more than $75 million. But
We lock it in now.
Yeah, right. Other projects that aren't on here that you should consider are the Peyton Aram Bridge, Dartmouth High School windows. Again, you may recall that the roof repair was accepted by the MSBA, but they did not accept the window replacement of the school due to the age of the windows. But that is something we're going to need to address in the future. DPW administration building, again, it's in good shape right now, but we're kind of getting to its seams, and it may need some major overhaul. Again, talking out to 25 years. Town hall even, again, the building is fairly well now. We do have some structural concerns that we need to address, but it's something in the next 25 years that we may need to look at, whether a full renovation or potentially a new town hall. And fully funding our road maintenance. Our DPW director has told us in order to effectively fully fund road maintenance, it's approximately $10 million a year. We appropriate $1 million to $1.5 million a year, so there's significant lacking there. This is where we get a little bit technical, so we're going to walk through this kind of to give you an idea. This is our annual debt service payments. So that previous screen showed we were estimating a 3.25% interest rate with various terms for the bonds. For smaller borrowing, we have as little as a 10-year term. For larger borrowing, such as a school, we look at a 30-year term. Right now, 30 years is the limit for borrowing for something like a school project. There is legislation that is being proposed to increase that to 40 years, given that our cost could be $150 million. It's something, if that passes, we may want to consider. But right now, the maximum borrowing term is 30 years. So you see in 2028, those first few projects, $13 million. We have that on a 10-year debt schedule. The annual payment with that 3.25% interest rate is around $1.5 million. That's continues right for 10 years. Your next really big debt service payment is an additional with the 1.5, you get up to $9 million, almost $9.5 million with the middle school replacement in 2030. And then you get to 2032, that's the rec center and COA upgrades. That brings your annual debt service payments up to $11.2 million. 2035, you are at the Potter or DeMello replacement, which brings your debt service payments up to a little over $15 million. 2038, that debt starts to drop off from that first borrowing, and you go back down to about $13.6 million. But then in 2040, if we borrow again for another elementary school, you're up to $17.6 million in annual debt service. In 2050, for the Quinn School, you're up to $21.5 million in annual debt service, and then things start to drop off. So the COA and Recreation Center would drop off, and then the middle school replacement would drop off, and then over the next 10 to 15 years, the rest of the debt would drop off.
And most of us would drop off.
What you see is these are significant debt payments that would have to be paid. And we're also using a 3.25% interest rate. In reviewing, so Gary and I get a list of what municipalities are borrowing and what those rates are. And so right now, we feel like 3.25 is a good rate for a AAA community such as Dartmouth. I will say, if we vary from our strong financial policies and do not stay consistent with a AAA bond rating, we could see a 5% interest rate, which is what some communities are seeing, and that significantly increases our debt costs, particularly if you're talking about $150 million for a school.
What is the AAA bond rating right now? The AAA, what is the interest?
It varies, but we feel 3.25 would be roughly what we would get, what we would be able to procure.
Okay.
The higher the bond, the lower the rate.
Lower the rate?
So it depends on what the borrowing is. And that's why when we talk about 2028, we don't want to, if there's an opportunity, it makes sense to borrow for several of these smaller projects together rather than borrowing just for say, the high school roof, because the rate may be a little bit higher on a smaller project. This gets into the average impact on the average taxpayer in the town of Dartmouth, residential taxpayer. So you can see with that first borrowing for the $13 million in 2028, this is based on average tax bill in fiscal 26 of $5,276 with the average assessed value. The impact is a little bit less than $100. In 2030, when we go to borrow for a new middle school, that goes up to $617. When you get to 2035, which is inclusive, 2032 first, which is the rec center and COA upgrades, that goes up about another $112. You borrow for another school, and you go up to almost $1,000 impact on the average taxpayer. you drop off because some of that debt drops off, and then you can see as we borrow more for the schools, which are the larger projects in 2040, 2050, that peaks in 2050, and then more of that debt starts to drop off until it completely drops off in 2080.
2080, let me see.
Where do we stand, with some of these projects, and, comparing Dartmouth to other communities? So Dartmouth's residential tax rate is $8.03 per thousand. Comparable communities is $10.63. Essentially, in order to be in line with comparable communities, we could tax another $26,200,000, and that would bring our tax rate up to the average of $10.63. We hear, one of the things that's a little bit more unique about Dartmouth is that our we have 3 separate fire districts. So I did put in the taxes for each of those districts, added those up to the residential tax, and so you get, District 1, your total tax rate is $851, District 2, $906, District 3, $882. You'll notice we're still significantly less than the average of our comparable communities of $10.63. This is an analysis of some of the comparable communities that we looked at. So what I did for our tax rate is I used an average of the 3 fire district and residential tax, so you get $8.80. You can see our tax levy, what we get for state aid, and our total budget, and how that compares to some of these other communities. And that's how we get that 1063 average. You can see the average population among our comparable communities is a little bit less at 28,000. The tax levy is a little bit more, state aid is a little bit more, and the budget's a little bit more, but you're not going to find any perfect comparable community. So that really sums up the general fund borrowing. Now we're going to get into enterprise fund projects. So there's really 2 enterprise funds that we're going to touch on tonight. It's water and wastewater. There's a number of projects that have been identified. In the most pressing, in speaking with the DPW, is really we have some water infrastructure upgrades that we're going to recommend for funding really this coming year. And then we have wastewater treatment plant upgrades and some pump stations that need to be upgraded. And then you'll see as we go out over the next few years, we have water treatment upgrades across the whole system for $18 million. We've always talked about needing a new water treatment plant that we have in as $50 million in 2031, and then general infrastructure in both wastewater and water. For the purpose of this exercise, we split it to $10 million each, so with a $20 million total. What you get between the 2 enterprise funds is almost $100 million in borrowing that needs to be undertaken essentially in the next 10 years. So we'll start with the Water Enterprise Fund. As I previously mentioned, what is different about the enterprise funds in comparison to the general fund is they're funded solely by ratepayers. So the first set of borrowing that we discussed likely would need to be approved through a debt exclusion, so an override essentially at the ballot box. Enterprise fund debt would be funded through rate increases for the ratepayers. And so you see we start off with that borrowing this coming year. This is just for water. Our annual debt service payments would be a little less than $300,000, which we would need to do a 4% rate increase to cover those debt service payments. Then we get into 2029, and we need to go forward with additional projects, which is the general water treatment upgrades, and that's a 20-year term that brings debt service up to about $1.4 million and would require a 15.1% rate increase. And then again, the additional infrastructure, which we had set at $10 million, would require an additional 3.5% rate increase. And then the debt starts to drop off, as mentioned before. So the 2027 infrastructure drops off in 2037, and you can see what it does to your annual debt service payments. What I will say is, for the rate increases in 2029 and 2035, those are one-time increases if we don't build in capital increases over the next few years. So if we are proactive for the debt we need to take on in 2029 and 2035, that 15.1% can be spread out over several years. So maybe it's 3 or 4% each year. So by the time we have to borrow, we have the capacity within the budget as a result of the rates. Now we're going to move on to wastewater, sewer. So recommended for borrowing for this year is essentially phase 1 of our wastewater treatment plant, and that is the aeration upgrades, and there are some pump station upgrades that we need to undertake. That would require an 11% rate increase in the sewer enterprise fund to cover the annual debt service, estimated at $622,000. Then we get to obviously the biggest piece of debt for the enterprise funds, which is the wastewater treatment plant. We have that estimated at $50 million. We are undergoing our comprehensive wastewater management plan. The DPW is actually in the process of interviewing the respondents to that, and that is really what is the first step to dictate what is that project going to look like as far as the upgrades that are necessary. Based on this projection, again, if we don't upgrade annually, you would need approximately a 32% rate increase to cover the annual debt service payments for the wastewater treatment plant. The additional infrastructure in 2035, you can see brings annual debt payments up to about $3.5 million, would require a 4.5% rate increase at that point, and then again, like the other projects, they start to drop off and your debt service payments start to come down. So that was a lot of information, and we recognize, where that stands. Essentially, we're asking a lot of the community over the next several years. However, I think it's something that the board tasked the Long Range Capital Planning Committee to undertake. If we, these are things that are going to need to be done. And so when we look at the pros and cons of borrowing, we look at current interest rates, current market conditions, and we also look at anticipated costs of projects increasing. And if we wait, these projects are only going to increase. And so there is a value to us borrowing now and moving forward with some of these projects, particularly at the DPW level. With some of these, the aeration project is a good example. The water infrastructure that I discussed is actually primarily made up of the water main on Route 6. The idea with that is to align that with the Route 6 project that MassDOT will be undertaking in the next year or two. And it will actually save us money, and it makes sense to do it at the same time as them. And so that's, estimated at $1.5 million. However, what we're seeing is we're going out to bid, and bids are far exceeding what the estimates have been. The aeration project and pump station upgrades for wastewater are 100% designed, hence why we're recommending that we move forward with that sooner than later. Those costs are only going to increase, and they have to be done. No matter what we do with the wastewater treatment plant, the aeration project is an integral part of that, and so it makes sense to borrow for that now and essentially provide relief in the long term. And I'll say we have, all of the members of the Long Range Capital Planning Committee here who can certainly opine on that. Tim can certainly provide further information on any of the DPW projects. Mr. Kiley can provide any information on the school projects, but we do think we do need to start, particularly with the enterprise funds, essentially going into this year.
All right. Enterprise funds.
How did we quiet this band?
Enterprise funds, when we move the needle on that, that is something that the DPW board, or the Board of Public Works, reviews and sets.
The rates?
The rates.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that is not something that, unlike the general fund, that will get input through town meeting.
So all of these projects are, so enterprise funds, I'll start there with the process. We would essentially need authorization to borrow from town meeting. We would not need the voters' approval because it's not a general override. And then we would have the rates, the Board of Public Works that essentially would need to vote to increase the rates to cover the annual debt service payments. So that's really the process for that. It doesn't go to the ballot for any of the enterprise funds. For any of the general fund projects, we need authorization to borrow at town meeting. And then we would also have a ballot question to allow a debt exclusion, which is essentially allowing us to tax beyond Proposition 2.5 for a period of time to cover a specific project until the debt falls off. Once the debt falls off, the additional taxation also falls off.
Ms. Brooks?
Mr. Tattelbaum.
Thank you, Cody. The group we assembled, the long-range planning, really, this is not new news. We've been working on this for about a year. We assembled people who understand what the town needs, what the priorities are. There's a handful of projects in there that may end up to be maybe either deprioritized or maybe even eliminated. But rest assured that these projects, be it schools, wastewater, sewer, these are essential and will have to happen. And Nate Silver's an expert on construction, and he made it very clear. The longer we wait, the more we pay, because inflation hits this kind of categories more than anything. We've got a plan so that we can afford to do it over time. It's scary. There's hundreds of millions of dollars here, and our goal was to make it as clear as we can and to present this to people so that we can make a conscious decision over time that makes sense so we can afford. No one wants to spend this kind of money, but we have to. And I think that the work that's been done here, and with Cody's now assistance overseeing this with his leadership, we're going to continue the same process so that we can then make final decisions on what is going to be the top priority, how we're going to do it. But it's fitting in. It's coming into form quite well in terms of what is important, what has to be done, and when do we do it, in what sequence. And we're going to continue to work that process, and appreciate the time that the board has given us to make that presentation. Of course, Cody doing his best to make something that's very complex and very expensive as understandable as possible. Thank you.
Rob Almy has something.
Mr. Almy, you wanted to make a comment.
Madam Chair, Robert Almy, Chair of the Public Works Board. I want to make one thing very clear. Although it's the responsibility of the Public Works Board to set rates, we started several years ago coming back to you and checking in with you so you know what was going on, and we'll continue to do that. You guys appoint us. This is a partnership. We take that seriously. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. O'Neill.
Cody, is there an opportunity to, similar to what you did with the potential debt impact on the average home? We had talked about this a little bit in the budget advisory group, that a lot of people are debt adverse. However, you need debt to move on sometimes. And what people want to do, essentially in the town, from what I hear and what I understand, is that they would like to treat it the same way they treat their own homes. So they need to know what the impact is. If we can do it per 1,000 of assessed value, that's easily computed for them. It would give them an indication of, what it's actually going to cost them to go forward. And I like that part of it for the debt exclusion. But there isn't a breakdown, or you might have it, but I don't think it's here, for the enterprise funds. If we could do the same thing for the enterprise funds, in order to get, and that's obviously different because you've got the customers that you're basically breaking it out to as opposed to the property owners. But same idea, right? They'll have an idea of exactly what the cost will be. And when we get into the discussions about debt exclusions, potential overrides, and the fact that we have structural revenue problems in this town, I think it comes down to education, letting people understand exactly how these things affect them going forward. But we also have a corporation to run. It's a $113 million company that we're trying to run here. And when you're restricted on your revenue of 2.5%, it makes it very difficult when you can't hire people because you can't pay them enough, or you're getting invoices that are 30% higher because of COVID and everything else that went along with that. So I think if we can bring this down to a point where it's understandable at the household level, similar to what you did on the debt, if we can do it for the enterprise funds, and we'll make sure that we work on it to try and do it in the budget advisory also. So when we go out 10 years, people will have a better understanding, and I think that's going to help us at town meeting when we do come before people and explain exactly what the needs are. We can't keep kicking cans down the road. We just can't do it. We need to stay competitive, and this is a humongous step toward getting us to a point where this town is on a more stable financial footing. So thank you for the work that you've done.
The way I look at it, Chris, on enterprise funds, Cody did factor in the 4% and 11%.
The percentage.
Right.
I feel like that we have that. My question now is, this is looking at FY '27. When we meet in June, we will be talking about the FY '27 budget. So this is something that we're looking at in the next few months of,
I mean, that would be our recommendation.
Yeah.
You know, in reviewing these projects with Gary and Tim, it doesn't necessarily make sense to wait even longer. Particularly, you know, a debt exclusion, you want to make sure that we go about it the right way, and it takes a little bit more time to prepare for a debt exclusion.
and that we have set for 2028, so another year from now.
Yeah, and that could be even a mid-year 27, depending on the MSBA with particularly the high school roof. That's kind of the big.
If we get the information right, so that the dates, the timelines dovetail.
Yes,
right?
exactly.
So we need to have this information for the enterprise funds prepared for our town meeting warrant and know exactly what we're going to be committing to. So when I look at, excuse me.
So we'll put together more comprehensive information on the impact to average, you know, sewer bills, average water bills, as far as, you know, what is the average, similar to what we did with the average tax bill and what that looks like for the average water and sewer bill. We just wanted to give a high-level overview at this point. And then as we prepare for the specific projects, that's when the specific information will come out regarding those projects. It's just a lot of information, and we don't want to get into too many specifics for all of the projects. If we're looking at, you know, some of these schools being 25 years out,
Right.
it's so
No, but
arbitrary at this point.
I'm looking at the aeration and pump station upgrades. And then after that, it's the sewer treatment plant. Now, I took a tour of the sewer treatment plants over a year ago, and I still have a reoccurring nightmare of that. So I'm looking at, okay, and then the following year, you're going to add 32%. So I totally understand looking at, okay, how do we do, you know, do we do 15? Let's see, this was 2031, so it's not the following year, but do we do 15 so that by the time we get to 2031, we're not looking at a 32% increase? Is that possible to get that money into the enterprise fund so that we have it to continue on that pathway? Because I do look at this and going from a 4% under the water side, a 4% increase in 2027 to a 15% increase in 2029. Maybe if we go up a little bit more in 2027, 2028, maybe we don't have to go all the way to 15.1 in 2029. But then again, the prices are going to change.
Yeah, and I'll note that these are the increases projected solely based on the capital projects. This doesn't include any operational cost increases, which is what we've historically seen. So, you know, if operational costs require an 8% increase, the 4%, for instance, is in addition to the 8%. This is just to fund the debt service for these projects.
So with that all on the table, we also have what it costs to do business in town, which is what Chris had earlier alluded to. We're a $113 million corporation.
135 if you include our enterprise funds.
Big business.
Did we pass out the vomit bags today? 135, and we're looking every year at, can we balance these budgets? That's a whole nother.
Yeah, this is just capital expenditures. This has nothing to do with operations.
To be continued. To be continued.
To be continued. Well, this was great information, and I totally, you walked us through beautifully, so thank you, Cody.
Heidi, can I ask you just one more question? On
Yes,
the,
of course.
on the the school financing, we've got the high school roof at $6 million, right? we've been approved for reimbursement on that project?
Well, I have 6 million in as our share. Costs have significantly increased. Again, these are projections.
Yep.
We're undergoing the feasibility study now with the MSBA. We anticipate that's probably close to what our portion will be. That's 50%, approximately. And Mr. Kiley's here, and he can certainly opine on that. But
It's a big roof.
in speaking with Mr. Kiley, similar to what we see with debt schedules around Massachusetts, he also sees similar projects, roofs, school roofs, and based on some of that preliminary data that we're seeing, we wouldn't be surprised if our share is around that value.
Okay. Yeah, and the schools are similar. I mean, the numbers that you've got in here for the schools would be our anticipated.
Our portion.
Our
Yeah,
portion of
that
it.
does not, we anticipate about a 50% portion from the MSBA. So these are all based on what our portion would be.
The disproportionate ratio that's throughout this entire Commonwealth, where some communities basically get 95% and some get 50%. Depends on who you know and what the powers be up in Boston decide, which is totally unfair to communities like us.
And I know I mentioned this, but I just want to hammer home the point of the interest rates, a 0.25% increase or decrease.
On a number like that,
On
yeah.
$150 million is significant. With the enterprise funds, with water and sewer, we anticipate being able to go to state revolving fund, which is a 2% interest rate, which is great. The 3 1/4, again, that's can vary depending on markets. That's what we're looking at right now. And that is because of our AAA rating. If we do not sustain our financial policies and keep building our stabilization, we would be downgraded likely to a AA, and our debt service costs would significantly.
My opinion on that is that we can't play games with that number. We have to make sure that we're as competitive as we can, because it's, the long-range value of that money could crush us. So,
Without a doubt.
And we've been AAA for
for a long time.
quite a number of years.
And it's important that people understand that that comes with financial stewardship. That doesn't just happen. There are towns that can't get to that level. They can't attain that level for the bond market, and we have, consistently. So it's an important thing for people to know. That's basically alluding to the fact that although certain people think the finances in the town are skewed one way or another. You know what? We're doing the best we can with what we have, and it shows by their allocation of a AAA.
Since 2012, I think.
I think that you look at our tax rate, the reality is that we are paying a high price in financing from the state because our rate is so low. It's hard to believe. Some people don't believe it, but it's so low. One of the reasons why we pay so much to the New Bedford vocational schools, because our ability to pay. We pay $6 million a year to send a few hundred kids to school, but we do that because our finances can support it. And at some point in time, the bills are coming they have to pay, and it's going to be because our rates are low, and we've got to work through that.
Well, another example, Dave, is the school choice reimbursement.
Yeah.
We've made the argument to the state. I have personally, and the response is always, well, look at your tax rate.
Right.
It's so
Raise your taxes.
But the problem is, you have to come up with a great argument. You have to do the presentation, the communication, to convince people that things are being run properly.
Right.
They're being run well. We're doing projects that are required. They're not they're not pie in the sky, and we're getting killed because we're putting some of these things off, and the cost is going through the roof.
I think our residents respect us because we're given the facts. These are the facts, and here's what we have to do.
Yeah.
That's what matters most. Thank you.
I mean, we can put our own opinion on which project we feel is most necessary, which project order we would prefer.
Yep.
The bottom line is, any of them are going to cost money.
Right. There are certainly options on what we pick, when we do them, and if we do them at all, but that's going to be going forward for sure.
But we've got to do them. We have to act. We've got to get going.
Yeah, I recommend the board, this is really, we want to start that dialogue and start the board to start thinking about this. We will, myself, Gary, and Tim will be recommending the borrowing for the enterprise funds for this town meeting, authorization to borrow. So we'll put together more information on that. And then I'd really recommend that the board start thinking about any of those smaller, and I say that kind of with a grain of salt, smaller projects that we may want to wrap into a borrowing for the roof. We're going to have to borrow for the high school roof. So if there are those projects such as the stadium, the track, something that we don't necessarily have the capacity within free cash consistently to fund, but it's something that we need to do. Those are the things more imminent that we need to think about, because it'll be more advantageous to us when we go to borrow. We borrow a little bit of a larger sum. And also, we're going to have to go for a debt exclusion for that anyways. So if we need to pursue some of these other projects, it makes sense to wrap it into one debt exclusion rather than go for a debt exclusion in 28 and then maybe have to go for another one in 29. You don't want to have to do that. So that's where I would say the board should start thinking.
Well, my thoughts right now is a very decrepit and old bridge that's on our causeway. So Tim, I want to put you on the spot. Where are we on that? And how much work has gone into basically replace it? Because to be honest with you, it doesn't affect me too much because I don't travel that all the time, but I get the calls. And when it's hot, it's got to be hosed down. And if it's lucky that it's hosed down, that the mechanism underneath, the bubble gum and the baling wire hasn't fallen. So where are we on that? And what has the state offered on that?
So I can say that the design is still pre-25%. I know the state was interested in a rehabilitation rather than a replacement. But, that might change based on the design engineer's recommendations. They came out last year and did some inspections for all the mechanical, electrical, and substructure. So it's kind of a waiting game. I do keep in touch and follow up with them to try to see where they're at, and if they need information, we give them all of our logs. But it's not moving too quickly.
Well, I think we need to move it quickly. And I think we need to bring it to the front burner. As long as I can remember, this has been a topic of something to be done down there. I'm at least thinking about at least the last 30 to 40 years. And, I know if we get the state involved, which would be nice because, they approve it because of the roadway, and maybe that there's money available in the state bond to help us out, whatever percentage it is. I don't want to, I don't want a scenario where we're dealing with the Sagamore and the Bourne Bridges, okay, where we're all of a sudden, the whole physical nature of the village changes. But as Tim had said, there's 1,400 customers that kind of sometimes go through that bridge on a daily basis, but there's even more that go over the bridge on a daily basis.
Right.
And I think if there's any type of road issue in this town that needs to be addressed first, it's that issue. I mean, this town has been pushing the village as a jewel, as a tourist thing to attract people, and we basically have a bridge from the 1800s. That's just basically a crap bridge. We need to do something there, and the guys that go fix that thing, God bless them.
But, you know, at some point in time, they got to stop learning how to chew bubble gum and put it up on that bridge to fix it, because that's basically what's being done. And it just, to me, any road project in this town, that is the first one.
I agree. And I do have a call this week in with the engineering firm that came out and did the inspections, who is also the design firm, so.
If you need anything from this office to light a fire under their backsides, let us know, because we'll do it. Or at least I'm one person of 5 that'll do it. And I don't have a problem screaming.
I think it would be important because, as Cody said, when we're looking at what are we going to combine together, and this would not be a little piece to add to the FY27, but I can't think that we would be able to wait longer than FY28 to be looking at this at the bridge. And I know the things that were on the list.
You're probably looking at about $30 million now. It was 20 million in 2020. Obviously,
it's gonna get more.
inflation is significantly.
And what's the
rose.
time frame to replace something like that?
The construction time frame, you know, it all depends on if it's a rehabilitation, if it's a replacement, if it's something that they could build off-site and barge in.
That's probably what they
yeah,
would do if you
yeah.
built a new bridge.
If it's a replacement, so it's all different based on the mode that they choose. And I'd say, you know, keep reaching out, you know, to the state, to your representatives, to request additional bond bill money to be put in for replacement or rehabilitation.
Well, we got a former lieutenant governor that lives in town, and we got the attorney general lives in town. Let's see what other state official we can have move in town, and maybe they can do something.
Wonder who lives in Franklin? They've got $34 million in state aid versus $15 million for Dartmouth.
Look who represents Franklin, and there's your
Cousin.
answer.
Somebody's cousin.
Well, unfortunately, Tim, that comes under you, the bridge, as well as all these sewer and water issues, but we have to move on them.
Yeah.
So we need to prepare that for town meeting, and I was looking at the town meeting schedule, and, I mean, before you know it, we will be reviewing that draft warrant on April 27th. And we'll have that, you know, and before that even, we
We've
will be
already-
talking
yeah.
about,
We've internally drafted the language for the borrowing, authorization to borrow.
okay.
That's done.
We have bond counsel for that.
So do we have to borrow, if the projects that we're borrowing for, that's not the enterprise, but the stadium, high school roof, high school track, because MSBA is involved, is it 2 different borrowing, or they can just cash off their piece, and we could add
Yeah.
something else to the FY28?
Yeah, the process, MSBA does require specific language.
Yep.
So there may be a separate question for the
Okay.
MSBA, but when we go out to the bond market, we could do it as one bond. Yeah.
Okay.
We would do short-term borrowing, bands, until the projects are completed, and then we would go out for final borrowing, long-term borrowing, once the projects were complete.
Do you need any kind of a support or vote from us in terms of moving along the DPW projects?
Nope, we'll have the language drafted in your first review of the warrant that we'll start discussing. What I would say is, again, the board should start thinking about these projects as a whole, and kind of exactly this discussion that we're having tonight. If there's other projects that you want to see moved around, 2028 comes quick, and there's a lot of work that goes into this, so we want to know, okay, we didn't have the Peyton Aaron Bridge on there for something funding in 28. If that's something the board feels is a priority, do we want to continue with everything? And then we're pursuing $60 or $80 million borrowing in 28, with another 150 on the horizon potentially in 2030. Those are the things I'm just asking you to start thinking about.
I suggest it's important this is, maybe we can consider a joint meeting with the long-range plannings, and we can then maybe ferret out the details and come up with a plan. It may be a portion of one of our meetings at the right time. Because I think we need to make some decisions quickly, because that list needs to be revised, because it's, I think my view is not going to stay the same as it is, and why not get it revised, moving in the right direction?
I do think at some point, regular capital planning committee should start to take on a lot of this, because we are talking long-term, but actually, a lot of these aren't so long-term.
Okay.
We're actually looking in the next 5 years at, a couple $100 million in debt. So I think it may be a good opportunity to start getting capital planning committee involved in what their recommendations are, in conjunction with long-range, for the more
Maybe
long-term
long-range
projects.
capital can meet and then make a presentation to select board, something like that. It's a good point, very good.
Well, I do think, too, we, as members of the Select Board, need to review this plan and look, because the additional projects that you had listed, the Paid Narren Bridge, the high school windows, the DPW admin building, the town hall, road maintenance, I'm hearing from people, especially after the most recent storm, what the roads look like now. And knowing that it's state average, at the MMA conference, they said to plan $200,000 to $300,000 per mile. So when you look at that, and we are putting, $1 million or even $10 million, we're not getting a whole lot of roads done.
Yeah, and that's a bargain, 200,000 a mile. I mean, we're
Yeah.
probably up closer to that 500,000
Take it.
range for the, full construction.
That's a bike lane.
I can touch base on that as well. So we spent about $4 million this past year on road reconstruction and resurfacing. And we got almost 7 miles milled and paved, and about just like 2.5 miles of micro seal. And then about 25 miles of crack sealing, but that's just a maintenance. But you're getting that. It's only a small percentage of the roads, and it's costing about $4 million a year.
Tim,
Go ahead, Chris.
while you're up there, on the other capital projects, are these, in your opinion, right now, even the short term, are they worst-case scenarios where there'll be no revenue from any grants? Are there any grants available for any of this municipal infrastructure?
We have applied for grants for both, and haven't received any yet for the two that we're looking at borrowing from for this year.
Do they give you the reasons why? I mean, are there things that we can do between now and then that we can increase our ability to succeed?
Yeah, they're competitive, so sometimes it just has to do with if you're serving an EJ community or is it servicing additional housing? Those are always big questions on the grants. So you have to make sure that they're up there with being competitive with other communities.
We did, for the pump station upgrades, which is inclusive of the $8 million for wastewater, we did get a grant from MassWorks for $2.1 million. That was initially supposed to cover 2 pump station upgrades. We bid it out twice now, and $2.1 million is going to cover 1. And we still have another 1 that needs to be done at the tune of another, $1.52 million. So that does include $2 million in grants for that project in particular. Also, we've gotten a $250,000 for the aeration.
Yeah, $250,000 towards nitrogen removal.
Which is that aeration
portion
project.
of the aeration project.
Chase Road?
What's that?
That's Old Westport Road?
No, the wastewater treatment facility
Okay, all
for
right.
nitrogen removal from the aeration system.
Oh, okay.
Upgrades, yeah.
$7 million project, $250,000 isn't huge, but it is still
Hey,
something.
something,
We definitely,
anything.
we pursue anything that we can
Yeah,
for these
good.
types of projects.
Tim, back to roads for a minute. $4 million a year this year. Is that a project that's done, some of it is in-house and some of it is contracted out, correct?
Yes, so that includes our, our staff work and both contractors doing, paving work or crack sealing work, those are all contractors. And then it's, the costs are split between multiple funds. So a portion through our capital articles, a portion through Chapter 90, a portion through the Fair Share Plan, and a portion through our cost sharing with Eversource Gas.
Thank you.
Covered a lot of ground there.
Well, this is something that we have to grapple with, and there's no getting around it. We got to talk about this again. So I think we need to put this again on the March 30th agenda. Let me just see, after that, I just want it on March 30th so that if there's anybody that wants to talk about something they feel that we need to go forth with for this year.
So I would mention, we're not in a position to go for any general government borrowing this year. Because we're not in a position, I mean, you could, but I don't see a debt exclusion successfully being proposed this year. Because
Not at this time of the year.
Yeah, or you'd have to have a special election. So that's why when we start talking general government, we're talking 28.
Yep.
The enterprise funds is something we'll certainly work with a DPW team to more hone in on, but those were the two biggest projects in speaking with the director that were necessary as soon as possible.
Agreed.
So soul searching, let's push on this one, and then, let's see, June 2nd. Once we sit down and look at our calendar after June, we'll start talking about this, because this is something that we got to keep going. We got to continue the conversation. We can't wait. As far as we look at on the general government side.
Agreed.
And have more conversations with the school department, because if this is something that we feel we need to add the windows in, or, on our side, if we want to add in any of those additional projects.
Okay.
All right, our next sleepless night. On to the Council on Aging's kitchen.
Yes.
Great project.
So this has been a project that's
Thanks,
been in the
fellas.
works
Hey, Rob.
for a number of years. I'm excited to share a pretty nice update. In your packet, you have the updated design plans. So we are pretty much at 100% design for the COA kitchen project. Our team met internally with the architect a couple weeks ago to a couple of small housekeeping things that we wanted to see updated. We've been providing monthly updates to the COA board, and they also send a member of the Friends group, so they're certainly informed as well. It's a commitment we made to that group. So we are hopeful to go out to bid later this month, and they'll be a month or a 6-week process, and our goal is to start construction early summer and be done by this fall on the COA kitchen.
It's a great project, looks terrific.
Hey.
Everything that they need
Yes, it is. It's great.
and more.
Yeah, it's a great project.
Great.
We also, based on preliminary cost estimates, town meeting did appropriate the funds at the fall, and so we are adding a few options. The large room is off, the kitchen is off of. The ceiling in there is really in rough shape, so we've had that as an alternate. We're looking at the flooring potentially as an alternate, so we're hopeful that we're able to start to encompass more of the master plan that was done over at the COA, rather than just the kitchen. So if we can expand into that large room and get some of the highest priorities there done as well, that would be,
Yeah. Looks
that's the
great.
goal.
It's the most used room in the town, for God's sakes.
Okay. Well, that's very exciting, and I'm sure that the folks down there
Very nice.
are pleased that this is moving.
Yes, they are.
All right. So, that brings us to the end of tonight's meeting. Or not the end of it's the agenda, the end of the agenda. And now we move on to the town administrator's update.
Yeah, so bear with me. This might be a little bit of a long one. First, this is our first meeting since we had the historic blizzard, and so I really want to acknowledge the team here. I mentioned it when we were talking about our emergency management plan, but this was something that our region has not seen in 50 years, for 48 years. And the way
Before you were born.
The way that the town responded was quite miraculous. I'm really proud of the way that all the departments came together. We were consistently in communication, and when I say departments, I don't mean just DPW and police. I mean Stat Ambulance was on phone calls with us. All 3 fire district chiefs were part of the team communicating nonstop, and so. And things were changing on the fly. At one point, due to the extreme conditions, the DPW team made the decision to pull plows off the roads for a temporary period of time. We were quickly in communication with the fire districts, with Stat Ambulance, with the police department. We stationed some of our larger plows at the PD at each of the ambulance locations, so in the event of a 911 call, they could clear the path so we could get to our residents in a time of need. Our communications from our communications manager were phenomenal, nonstop around the clock. On Tuesday, we did mobilize a warming center due to the high number of power outages in the community. So again, emergency management helped man that center. We took tons of calls. We assisted residents in various different ways, whether it was with generators that they needed assistance from. We had someone who ran out of oil, and we provided some temporary fuel for them to get through until the COA could help get them an oil delivery. It really was just miraculous. Tim Sheehan mentioned Hampden County Sheriff's Office sent down support, 10 pieces of equipment for us. But with that came our collaboration with UMass Dartmouth. The team from Hampden County offered to stay the week and help us clear snow through the week. They didn't have anywhere to stay. All the hotels were booked in the area because Eversource had pre-booked all the hotels. So Tim, working with the UMass Dartmouth leadership, called over, and they actually housed these county employees so they could help us for the week. So again, very thankful to UMass Dartmouth for doing that as well. So I'm probably missing, people, agencies, departments, but I just wanted to give kind of the public and the board some of that insight into the teamwork and collaboration that went through to get us through that storm. And while I recognize it might have been frustrating for some people, it took some time to get the roads clear. When you look at how we fared with some of our neighboring communities, I'm very proud of how the team here did, and they did an excellent job.
Thank you. We'll stay on the storm for a bit. Did anyone want to pipe in?
No, I think the communication from Cody throughout the whole process was really good. He did a nice job.
We should be very proud of the whole team.
The whole team. And of course, we are a people of convenience. So those of us that had internet knocked out lost their mind. More concerning with the number of people that were out of electricity and therefore power and therefore heat. But the fact that we only had one resident that needed to come to the warming center because everyone else either was taken in by neighbors, which I heard that on a number of occasions, that neighbors were bunking in with neighbors, or they were lucky enough to have a working generator. But it was also nice to see neighborhoods pitching in. People snow blowing driveways and sidewalks of their neighbors or shoveling. I even saw about a half dozen young teenagers walking down the road with shovels, and I thought that was great to see. You don't typically see that. And I know some that said they made a good little bit of money, which was great. And I know had they come to my house, I would have been quite willing as well. But DPW, PD, fire, stat, EMA, communications, everyone pitched in, did a great job, and perhaps it's the storm of the century.
Let's hope so.
I hope so. So I also hats off to Hampden County. Usually they're the county that's getting the snow.
Right.
So that was great that they could come out. And shockingly, the Eversource drivers that came up were from down south. And I was kind of surprised that they came up to drive in our snow. But everybody...
Gary, if Hampden County needs some help in the next snowstorm, can you grab a shovel and head up?
it was just wonderful. And there are more good stories than bad.
Do we know the number of people that were
It's your
out
dog
with
sled?
power?
At one point, we were at 5,000. Yeah.
That's considerable.
Eversource, and I have to
It
give
is, but
credit
it could have been a whole lot more.
Yeah. I have to give credit to Eversource because, again, they were part of that communication, during the storm and throughout the storm. We had meetings among the team. Eversource assigned someone to just serve as Dartmouth's liaison. They were working with us, they were working with the fire districts, and we were prioritizing, okay, these are the parts of town we know, if a fire station doesn't have power, that is priority, you need to get them power. And they worked pretty quickly to get us power restored, considering the Cape, some parts of the Cape didn't have power for almost a week. We were pretty much up and running, with the exception of 100 or two customers, within 24 hours. Which is pretty good.
I also want to thank the residents who stayed off the road so that the DPW could get out there and plow. I understood their frustrations trying to plow, and there were people that, for whatever reason, on Facebook are asking if Target's open. So, hats off to everyone. And we had beautiful weather today. So it is, for this season, perhaps it's behind us.
13 days of winter.
Easy, McDonald.
And just the dedication of our employees. There's so many stories I could go on and say from, DPW employees who were sleeping in the office and didn't see their family for literally 3 and 4 days, to our police chief who snowshoed right into work.
That one's a good one.
Yes, and so it really is the dedication across the board.
We don't get, I know that a particular resident sent an email to the chief, and the chief shared that email with the officer that it was related to. And I was happy to hear that, because we get plenty of the negative. But it was nice that someone took the time to send an email to thank folks for doing what they were doing, so that was great.
But one of the things that, it often gets missed, is the people that are out doing what they need to do to get the town up and running. But what is often missed is the people that they leave at home.
Right.
Typical driver for the DPW plows 30, 40 miles of road, okay, and is out there 3 to 4 days doing the whole thing. Then they have to go home, and they got to do their stuff.
And shovel their walk, yeah.
Or the wife is out there with the kids doing the work, several times during the course of the day, and part of the issues that we have as the leaders of the town is, when we get a snowfall like this, all of a sudden we get snow removal experts all over the place, and more than likely we get the videos from Norway, from Montreal, on how to properly remove snow from the streets. But what they don't tell you is that Montreal has a $20 million snow budget. Norway has a $30 million, $40 million snow budget. Of course, they get snowfall, in the 8 feet, 9 feet, range. And, then
8 months a year.
Then you get communities like, Kamchatka and Irkutsk in Russia that, they have snowfall that, are 8 stories, 9 stories high.
Yeah.
But there are some lessons to be learned from those videos in preparation for the future. And one of them, and this is probably going to hit home, and a lot of people are probably going to agree with me, is some type of a tractor that has the purpose of plowing the roads, but also has a wing that as you go by somebody's driveway, they stop, remove the driveway that they just plowed in, and then pick up and go. You see those. Whether or not there's something that we can have, and I sent Cody and Tim something from a web page from basically a snowplow news web page on a cost of snow melting machines. Of course, they're very expensive, and, maybe you can rent them, but then again, why can't the town buy one and we rent it out to other people? We can make money on it, or that type of thing. You can see there's different ways of trying to come up with this. And again, I'm going to call out, my call that I've been saying for the last 10 years. We need four-wheel drive plows. And that's the big guys. Yes, they're more money, but in the long term, we had about 4 or 5 plows that were stuck in the beginning of this storm that they needed to send. New Bedford, one of my plow guys for one of my properties said that he was driving to the property. He saw one of the bigger trucks in New Bedford get stuck. So right after that, another truck to help him. He got stuck. They needed to send, a front loader to get those both of those guys out. And this is at the height of the storm. That's why these vehicles were pulled off the road, because everybody was getting stuck. Fall River, New Bedford,
had the same,
Dartmouth,
yep.
we all did it. We all pulled off so that, all right, let it fall. And I think the thing is that everybody was looking at the forecast. And we know the forecast can change. And everybody went to bed, that Sunday night, and it was only about maybe 2 inches on the ground. But then we woke up, all of a sudden there's a foot. That time wasn't anticipated, and it changed. But, we need to take a look at the things on how we do this, on how we have the equipment. And we also need to take a look at our regulations on clearing walkways.
It's in the town meeting.
Especially commercial.
Yep, that is the priority that we're planning to present.
Not this storm, but the storm before, somebody, and I think it was the state, hired these 2 guys with a snow blower and a shovel, and they went down all the walkways down Route 6 to clear them out. There's no reason why somebody like Colonial Chevrolet or Colonial Honda or Mike Panagakis with his several properties on Route 6 can't hire somebody to do those damn sidewalks. Walmart was the same way. Walmart, the biggest company in the world, can't do a frickin' sidewalk to help their customers move around. That's ridiculous. And the fines that we have to do on the commercial end almost have to double to get these people to do something. I understand a lot of the walkways, and there's some elderly people in town. We had a program that the sheriff's department did that had the inmates come in and shovel these areas. Well, that was killed by Haru, if that's his name, Paul. It was killed by him, so that no longer exists. So there's got to be something that we can do to help those residents who have the walkways, who need the help, versus the Walmarts, the Panagakises, the Colonials, these guys that just let the snow fall and leave it alone. And you have these people who live, that the state puts up in these hotels that walk to Walmart almost on a daily basis to get their supplements, and they do whatever they need to do, walking on the highway. And it's just not right. And we, whether we send out a blast at the beginning of the season warning these people, hey, get these sidewalks done, or that we send, the building commissioner or a police officer to start tagging these commercial places to get their streets done. Because to be honest with you, for the most part, Mayor Ashley, back in the 30s, said it correctly. He said, God put it there, God can take it away. Well, that doesn't work anymore.
No.
So,
I think, too, as part of the CEMP, there's the process of after the storm, lessons learned. So I'm hoping that you're scheduling something with the various groups to say, okay, what did we learn? And does it impact personnel or equipment or what? But
We're definitely looking at that.
spring is coming.
We are planning to present a revised bylaw for sidewalks this coming spring. And part of Mr. Barber's capital request is actually a machine that could do sidewalks. One of the things that we're looking at is, for commercial properties in particular, allowing a period of time, and then if it's not done, we actually will go out and do it, because public safety is our top priority, and then we would hit them with a hefty fine and fee for our cost to do that. So definitely we'll see that as we start to review the warrant and articles. And the last thing on the storm I want to add is very thankful to Senator Martin Tigney's office for reaching out for their support, particularly for Representative Markey. Representative Markey reached out to me every single day, multiple times a day, for whatever we needed throughout the storm. He came, and him and his wife joined me at the warming center that we had opened up, and then he actually came in on the following days to Town Hall to make sure we didn't need anything, or if there's anything we needed, he was there to help. So very appreciative of our delegation. Moving on, our collector's office have sent out 31,000 motor vehicle excise tax bills and 9,000 water and sewer bills. So, yeah, so residents will, if they have not received those, will receive those yet, and those will be due shortly. Our compensation classification study is wrapping up. The consultant will be in later this month at your March 30th meeting to provide the board with a presentation on their findings in their report. Okay. Our HISC, which is the Health Insurance Steering Committee, is having their first meeting on March 12th. The agenda is posted on the town's website. Tomorrow evening, Community Preservation Committee is hearing several proposals. They include the exterior of the DCTV building, some funding of the Agricultural Trust Fund, the Cultural Center renovations, field lights for the DYAA, and Buzzards Bay Coalition's acquisition and conservation restriction of some land that abuts Devals. And then last on the update, I had mentioned this earlier, but the comprehensive wastewater management plan, interviews are taking place with possible vendors, and those begin tomorrow, and that is a public meeting with the Board of Public Works here at Town Hall.
Phew. Well, you've been busy. All right. We're not looking at proposed town projects tonight. We did that last.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Old business, 40B, we are working, CBA is working very hard on that. That being said, there have been some things that come up during those 40B that ZBA, Planning Board need to be looking at. Our parking of complexes, our ratio of complex parking spaces. But there's just a few things that have come up that we probably need to make sure we have buttoned up. Won't impact anything now, but going forward. Was Connor, Lake Nokichoke Municipal Broadband?
Just the 40B update. March 16th, the ZBA is meeting to hear the Sherbrooke project, which is on Old Westport Road. March 23rd is the Hawthorne, former Hawthorne Country Club project, and then April 6th is the next meeting for the Hathaway Road project. So those are the next 3 dates for each of those. Municipal broadband, the only update I have is excited to share that Ripple Fiber has begun conceptual discussions with our DPW about what it would look like to essentially put fiber down within their right-of-way. So I'm hopeful to have more information to share with the board at an April meeting. Based on preliminary discussions, their phase 1 build-out would be able to service about 8,000 Dartmouth customers. So once we have more information and designs, we'll share that. Their price point, based on what we've been shared, is about $50 for one gig, which is a lot more than you're probably getting with your current provider and your current rate.
No, I'm paying for more.
Yeah, so the speed is a lot more at a lower cost,
Yeah.
And that's all I have.
All right. We have no minutes tonight. Select Board updates. Mr. O'Neill.
I'll pass.
Mr. McDonald?
I said my piece.
Okay. Mr. Tattlebaum?
It's been 2 months since I made my pitch regarding the commuter rail train.
Okay.
It works. It's great. They're very reliable. They have issues once in a while. Give it a try. It's 90 minutes from Church Street to South Station. I try to do that on at 7 o'clock in the morning going into Boston. It's safe, and I highly recommend it, and it's extremely reasonable, and it sure gets people off the road. So give it a try.
All right. Mr. Mickelson?
No, I'm good. I'm working on my farewell speech.
All right, we'll make sure we save time at our next meeting for that.
I won't be here.
I have nothing. We have no information to share.
Motion to adjourn, Madam Chair.
Second.
Made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Good night.